Hey everybody, welcome back to Out of Mana, the video game podcast where we talk about games, consoles, and developers, old and new, along with some of the hottest gaming news and other various topics. I'm Garrett.
I'm Ben.
And we'll be your co-host this Sunday, November 29th, 2020. Well, we hope you all had a good holiday week with Thanksgiving and all.
We sure did.
Yeah, we had a good time. What kind of turkey did you make?
It was kind of a weird one I slapped together last second. I only had half a turkey because family problems. I didn't end up going with my family, so I made my own. And I put together a orange ginger wine sauce for my turkey. And it turned out pretty good, if I do say so myself.
I can attest it was very, very good. Yeah, it was just me, Ben, and his roommate, Eric, who was on a previous podcast. And yeah, we had a little Thanksgiving here, and then we played some Mario Party afterward.
Yeah, we filled up on food, a little bit of drink, and then went to Mario Party, and almost all of us almost rage quit at certain points, yeah.
That was like a classic Mario Party where it's fun in the beginning, and then someone just starts steamrolling.
Yep.
And I don't know what happened there. I'm going to say it's because we played on an easier difficulty.
I think so.
Because it was the thing that made it so steamrollable or snowbally.
Was that the stars were 10 gold each?
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of experience in older Mario Party games. How did that work exactly? Were they more expensive?
So it's been a while since I played Mario Party. This is the Mario Party on the Switch. So this is a newer one, but my previous experience was with the GameCube Mario Party. I think Mario Party 3 on the GameCube.
Yeah,
I might be wrong about that, but and then of course Mario Party 1 on the N64 as well, but the stars were like 20, 25 gold, I want to say. Maybe even 30 gold. I want to say they were expensive enough that a lot of players weren't able to buy them at first at the beginning of the game. In this game, you were able to purchase one right off the bat almost.
Yeah, basically, if you ran into a star on the board, you could afford it. And so if you were ahead, you were kind of always ahead. Like, unless something totally catastrophic happened, which it didn't in both the rounds that I won the first one, and then Eric, like, steamrolled us. It was like, he had 7 stars by the end of it, and we had none.
So basically, Garrett steamrolled the hell out of both of us, and then the second game, Garrett jumps on those reins and starts... It was bad. I didn't do any steamrolling those games. I just sat there and cried and raged and was just very, very upset.
Oh my god, that second game, in half the game you made it maybe like 5 or 6 squares.
It was like 6 solid turns where I literally moved forward 3 or 4 squares. Because every single time I rolled, I either got, I was playing a Wario, so I used his dice a couple times, and I got the -2 coins 2 times. And the other 2 times, I got 1 space. Everyone else had already circled around the map, like flown across the world. I mean, Amelia Earharted over everything, and meanwhile, was just crashed at the bottom of the ocean, unable to move.
And meanwhile, Eric was just capitalizing on the whole board.
Oh, Eric was steamrolling us on that game. It's weird. Like, most of the games in this new Mario Party, it seems that the star seems to prefer the parts of the map that the person who purchased it are on. So when you collect a star, the star is then, we're going to move somewhere else. And Toadina, or whatever the hell her name is like, oh, I love you. And then she flies away, like 3 spaces away, and lands again. And then she's like, I sure hope nobody else gets it. It's only for you, winner. And it's like, okay, this is fair.
And we should go back and check because I'm almost certain it's because we played on an easier difficulty. I bet what changes with the difficulty is how much the stars are worth.
From what I've been seeing, though, is that the maps just seem to be really small, and maybe when you add more turns, you're probably right. Maybe when you add more turns, the price goes up and everything, but from my memories, maybe a little idealized now, but the GameCube version, the maps were really big. Like, I felt like they were at least twice the size of the maps we were playing now.
I remember because we used to play that, and I feel like we never even finished a round because they went on for so long.
It usually went on for a long time. I mean, I used to play that game alone. I really liked the earlier Mario Parties a lot, so I played alone, and I maxed out all the things you could earn. But yeah, this game just seems to be a little smaller and easily steamrolled.
Well, we'll have to check on that and give you guys an update.
And of course, we had Daisy.
Oh my gosh, Daisy was the CPU
computer. I'm Daisy. Like, she was a nightmare. So you had Daisy, who would play extremely stupidly whenever she was on your team, but then when you played against her, like all 3 against Daisy, she would play really smart.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that there has to be 4 players on the board, so there's only 3 of us, so we had to play with a computer, and there were some mini games such that Mario Party has.
Where
it has to split you up either 3v1 or 2v2. And anytime Daisy was on your team, it's like, oh my gosh.
Daisy was, I mean, she would just wander around as if her head had recently been hollowed out. I mean, you would knock on her head and there would be an echo. I mean, a wind go straight through her ears. Like, seriously, she had no idea what she was doing, and she was just there for looks, and then in the background to shout and scream like whenever something good happened to her, which was rarely.
It was still fun though, despite all the shenanigans. It was still, well, they had the co-op version, or the one where you're not playing against
the adventure
each other.
mode.
The adventure mode.
That was okay. So that's actually really fun. That was actually really fun. It's the one where you're in a boat and everyone controls an oar, and you go down these rushing rapids basically to reach the end. And while you're going down the rapids, you encounter balloons which start mini games if you hit them.
Yeah, and you're on a time limit, and you have to get to the very end before you run out of time. And the better you do on the mini games, you acquire more time on the clock.
Yeah. And so this is, opposed to earlier Mario parties, this is a very cooperative mode where instead of having everyone pit up against each other, you're working together to row the boat, steer the boat. And when you're playing the mini games, they tend to be more focused on team games.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I actually had a lot more fun doing that.
I agree.
Than the competition one, and I mean that's even me. I won the first game, and I still had more fun on the other one.
It was just very interactive, and
The games themselves were just more fun to play too.
Yeah, like that balloon one with the wind, and then the candle lighting one with the screaming bats.
That was a good one.
And and then the one on the you had to balance on the top of the mountain.
It was like a relay race.
Yeah. Those were fun. I did enjoy those.
Yeah, and the better you do, you get graded. So like S, A, B.
I think we got S on 2. I think there was only 2 games we didn't get S on. We got S on most of them because we did pretty good, and most of the ones we didn't get S on were Daisy's fault. I'm just gonna say.
I'll blame Daisy.
Blame Daisy.
So apart from Mario Party, what else have you been playing? I know you picked up a new game, right?
So I did pick up a new game. I finally bit the bullet. My coworker kind of pushed me into it finally, but Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3,
which I've been wanting to get. It's in early access still, but my coworker at work was like, "Oh, I love Baldur's Gate." And I was like, "Oh, I just so happen to love it too." And then he was like, "Well, we got the Thanksgiving weekend coming up. Why don't you buy Baldur's Gate?" So I did, and we haven't played it at all. But I've played it a lot, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. It's actually a really fun game, and so this is unique with Baldur's Gate because Baldur's Gate's kind of always been a BioWare published. It's always been done by Black Isle. I think Black Isle has always been involved in their development. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you have Larian, who has recently kind of crawled to the top of the mountain of isometric games with their Divinity series.
Yes.
So you had Divine Divinity, which came out early 2000s. I want to say even 2000, maybe even 1999. I played that one a long time ago. You played it for like a hot second, Garrett.
Yeah, you got me to buy it, and I played it for about 15 minutes.
It's me, Lanny Lore. Like, I mean, you played it for a little bit.
I did, yes, and I could see the potential there, but you know me, those aren't...
Yeah.
I like a good RPG, but I don't like a D&D styled, like, take-turn kind of...
So...
that one wasn't even that bad with it, though. Yeah. It really wasn't. I wasn't feeling it for some reason.
So, Divinity was rebooted basically by Larian, very, very successfully with Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, and now they were given the reins to do Baldur's Gate, which is a classic D&D isometric tactic game, and I loved it. I played Baldur's Gate 1, I played Baldur's Gate 2. I'm a big fan of the series, and I love the game. So I was really excited to see what Larian was going to do with this title, and I've got to say they've done pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Graphically, the game looks amazing. Like they're using their engine that they made. It looks really good. Maybe a little too much like Divinity in some regards, but they really upped the ante of how your character looks. Like you can design your character and it looks really, really good.
What is the point of view?
It's isometric. But it's not classic isometric. Maybe there's a different name for it that I'm not knowing, but basically you can zoom in, you can kind of twist the view a little bit to get better looks at the map, and rotate, which a lot of isometric games are only single point view. Like it's usually pre-rendered sprites.
So isometric means like third person and kind of aerial, right?
Eagle's eye view, basically.
Eagle's eye. Okay, that's a better word for...
Basically is what an isometric game is. In this case, this kind of updates it, brings it to current gen, where the environment's 3D instead of being pre-rendered.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it 3D?
Yeah. So it's 3D. It's luscious. It's beautiful. It's very vibrant and detailed and lovely to look at. And you can really get down to it. You can zoom in and look at the environment and explore it. And that's a kind of a Larian touch. It's one of their classic things that they've brought back with Divinity.
Is it turn-based?
It is so technically, yeah. I mean, it is turn-based. The combat is turn-based. That's another thing that they've kind of perfected is their turn-based combat. And in Divinity, it's a little. I want to. So the game is in early access, so I don't want to say too much harsh about it because it's going to change potentially. The release date's pretty soon, but the turn-based combat is a little rough around the edges still compared to Divinity. Divinity was very smooth. It was very intuitive. Like everything you did in the combat felt intuitive after you figured out the mechanics. In this game, they've changed the formula around a lot, which is good because you don't want it to be too derivative of Divinity. But it is in its own way. But they changed it up a lot, but it doesn't feel really smooth. That's been my biggest issue so far with the game is that the combat is kind of rough around the edges. Like the way the turns work, the way you pass through the turns, sometimes I'm not really sure why my character isn't getting a turn very soon. And sometimes the enemies just don't really know what they're doing. Like they'll say plotting next move like on the enemy and you're like, okay, are you done?
So it doesn't feel very smart. It doesn't feel finished.
It doesn't feel finished.
Okay.
I'm not going to say smart. It doesn't feel finished. So far, I'm not a really big fan of the combat. I was a huge fan of the Divinity combat. I loved it. It was fun. It was smooth. It made sense. So far, the Baldur's Gate combat just doesn't really feel up to par with it, despite the fact it's very derivative of it.
Interesting. So, what are some things that you really do like about the game so far?
So far, just the characters, the detail and the characters in the game. So when you first start off the game, I guess I'll kind of step back to square one.
Yes.
The game, it kind of has a Outer Worlds type vibe when you first start it. You have a very classically D&D character walk in, an enemy and monster. It's a Mind Flayer, which we are now a lot of people are now familiar with because of Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, the Mind Flayers. Okay.
Yeah. So he comes strutting in. They basically look like Cthulhu type characters. He comes strutting in, and it's a room, and it has a lot of people trapped in pods, cases, kind of frozen in stasis. And so that's kind of what reminded me of Outer Worlds, because Outer Worlds starts off with a stasis thing.
Oh. Okay.
And so he opens it up, and sure enough, one of your characters is in one of these pods. And you have he kind of focuses on one of the main companion characters in this scene, and he goes through that. You kind of watch what happens to her, and then it happens to you. What he does is he inserts a tadpole. I think in the game they're called lithid tadpoles, and he inserts one into your eye. It kind of like wiggles back behind your eyeball and sits back there to grow and consume.
Ugh.
So what they do is they basically they eat your brain. They take over your body. They use you as an egg, basically. So the tadpoles are young mind flayers that are being brought to life with you.
That's terrifying.
So it's an interesting plot to start with, for sure. Because as far as I remember, previous Baldur's Gate titles did not include mind flayers that often. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any mind flayers in the previous Baldur's Gate titles. But this one includes them heavily. You then wake up. Your character wakes up. The ship is getting attacked. And you escape from the containment. You find everyone else. You meet up with that girl you saw. She was the other main companion that was being interacted with before you. And she joins your party, and you fight and fight and fight. She's a very interesting character. I like her a lot. She's she's kind of mean. She's very aggressive. She threatens your character a lot. I think she initially wanted to kill your character before she realized that you had control of your mind.
Oh.
And it was fun. She's a really good character. Her name is Lazel, and she's a fighter character. The one I made a cleric, so it was really helpful having a fighter because my cleric is tanky, but at that point in the game, not very tanky. So she was very helpful to have in combat. And as you move into some other rooms, you meet some of the brain eaters, which are the evolved form of people's brains who had the tadpole put in their head.
Oh, okay.
And that's a really fun encounter too. These are the details I like in this game. Is that you walk into this room and you hear, we're up here, we're here, up here, and you're like, what the hell is that? And so you go up this little elevator that kind of lifts you up there, kind of mall style. And there's this guy laying with his head cracked open like an egg, and he's just kind of like twitching, like. and the brain is talking to you, not him. The brain.
It's just the brain?
So his head's been cracked open like an egg, and the brain is like, pulsating and like undulating inside.
Oh my god.
And he just looks dead. And so you like talk to the brain's like, help us, take us to the hole, take us to the hole. And I decided to help them. I scooped them out of the head. They fall on the ground. They kind of like evolve some more. Like, who's that Pokemon? And then Brain Eater. And yeah, they became this kind of weird little hissy character. And they helped me in combat too. So Lizelle and my Brain Eater friend, who I think was called Us, traveled with me, and we fought the ship, and then eventually you arrive at the hole, and you have this encounter with a bunch of the people who are attacking the ship. Mm-hmm. I think they're tieflings. Yeah, and then you see the Brain Eater himself, the Mind Flayer himself, and you have this kind of combat. He technically, you're on his side.
I was just about to ask. So if you're this Mind Flayer brain thing is like, it's asking for your help. So the Mind Flayer initially put something inside of you, but they're not. It doesn't sound like they're exactly enemies.
So it's one of those interesting moments where whose side do you take? Because obviously you've been kidnapped. Obviously you're being used as tadpole food to grow them. So whose side do you take? Do you take the side of the attackers who aren't necessarily rescuing you? They're just attacking because the Mind Flayers are an enemy to all? Or do you take the side of the Mind Flayers who... How do you get... What do you do?
So yeah, you're kind of in a crappy
situation. It's very enigmatic. Like, this starting is very... You don't really know what's going on and why and what you should do. So, go in there, the Mind Flayer, like, tells... Like, he's basically talking to the tadpole, and he's telling the tadpole to control you to help him. So, you kill the invaders, the tieflings, and their, like, little goblin things. And, yeah, then the ship crashes, basically. And then you're actually... The tutorial's over. So you're put into the game.
Why are ships always like tutorials? As you were explaining this, I'm like, I can think of like 50 different games where I started off in a ship, and of course it's either getting attacked or it's a storm, and I either arrive at my destination or I crash and then I'm stuck somewhere.
Yep.
Or I'm attacked and they take me and then I'm taken somewhere else. It's like a classic video game.
It's pretty damn classic. So I've got to say, I was a little unimpressed with this beginning. As much as I liked it, and I enjoyed it. Like, I had fun. I wasn't not having fun. I was just a little unimpressed. My favorite Baldur's Gate beginning is the original game, where you just start off and you kind of walk on the path and you start exploring the land and you start meeting people. And I wasn't... It's kind of with Baldur's Gate 2. Baldur's Gate 2 also had like a beginning where you wake up in a lab, I think. Mm-hmm. You're in like some kind of arcane lab. It's been a while since I played it, but you're in like a dungeon or a lab and you escape. And I didn't like that. Baldur's Gate 2 is a great game, but I didn't like the way it introed.
For some reason, I just don't know why, but when video games start with I'm trapped and now I got to escape, or like a breakout, or something's happening, for some reason I just don't like that. Like you were saying with the first one, you're just there and you're walking on a path. Some of my favorite games are ones where you start and you just don't know what's going on. You're just on an adventure.
By far, same here. Like, my favorite games are always the ones that have the humble beginnings where you just kind of walk out and you're like, okay, I'm going to go save the world or whatever you're going to do.
The only exception is Oblivion.
Oblivion and Morrowind were good. Like, Morrowind, you started off and it's like, like, oh, we finally meet Mo and I'm sure that let us go. And then Oblivion, the gods are coming, all that good stuff. Skyrim had the long tutorial.
Oh my god, Skyrim is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's too long. It's just too... I mean, I did like the beginning. I like how you're on the cart. You're heading to get like beheaded and then stuff happens.
I mean, I hate to say this phrase, but to be fair, Oblivion's beginning was also a long tutorial.
It was a really long tutorial.
It was very long.
I only liked it the first time.
It was a great introduction. Kind of probably same with Skyrim's. It is where you're like, oh, this is cool. There's a dragon attacking, blah, blah, blah. But
the sewer does get long.
In Morrowind had the best one. You're in a boat, the guy talks to you, you exit the boat, you create your character, then you talk to this other guy, and you walk out and you're done.
Yeah, you basically sign your papers.
You're done.
And then you can go do whatever you want.
I like, those types of games always hit me best. And with Baldur's Gate 2 kind of had the escape thing. It wasn't super drawn out, so I'm not going to hit it too hard. Because it's a great game. Baldur's Gate 2 is a great game. Both, like, a great game. And Baldur's Gate 3, it was a little long, but it didn't overstates welcome. Mm-hmm. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed meeting some of the companions. There was one lady you meet who's in a like trapped in one of the pods, the vessels that you were in. Mm-hmm. She's screaming for you to let her out, and I couldn't figure out how to let her out.
You just left her behind to die.
I tried. I almost save scummed because I was trying so hard to figure out how to let her out. Mm-hmm. Like I go up to it next to her pod, and she's like, "Let me out! Let me out! You know, you fool!" And I go up there and I examine the pod, roll a 20, and my character says, "Oh, there's runes sealing the pod. I just need to interrupt the runes." And then that's the end of the dialogue. And so I'm kind of left going, what? Okay, what do I do now? I can know every time I talk to her, she goes, "Let me out," and it's like, I want to.
Were there any runes around the room that you
No,
could have
they were circling around the pod, like condensed on the pod.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's unfinished early access or if I just had no idea, or I just couldn't let her out.
Is this a situation where you could go back to this area and
no,
like,
the ship is gone.
Oh,
so
interesting.
So I kind of felt bummed out about that because I didn't know why I couldn't let her out when my character had a successful check on it, and it didn't tell me that I needed to do more. It just said you need to interrupt the runes, and I tried everything. I even searched around for keys or whatever. But so that's one thing where I feel like the dialogue is also really good in the game, is it feels good for the most part, but a lot of the time it's very abrupt.
Interesting.
Like, you're talking to people and you almost feel like there could be more said, and then the dialogue's over. And you're just kind of left going, is that it? Mm-hmm. Are we done here? Like, you don't want to say anything else. Okay. And then you try to talk to them again, and they just repeat the last thing they said, and then you're just kind of like going, okay, I guess I'm going to move on.
Yeah, there's like a fine balance with video games where it's either, like you said, it's too short, too abrupt, or the ones that are just like windbags.
Yeah.
Where they talk so long, and you listen to the first ones, and then you're just like skip. You just go through all the dialogue options so you can move on.
And there's a lot of that filler dialogue. I mean, it's not that the dialogues don't have enough in them. It's just that when they end, you feel like it shouldn't have ended yet sometimes. Mm-hmm. So that was a moment when I felt that. Then after you exit the ship, you get out, and this is the kind of classical beginning where, oh, now you're in a land and you're alone and you need to find your way.
What to do, yes.
So you do, and the game was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed walking around. I enjoyed finding, wreckage and stuff and looting it and, scavenging around. And then I encountered some interesting moments with some NPCs. I started finding companions.
Yeah, go ahead and what was the first one's name? Lizelle?
So you meet Lizelle on the ship, but she then is away from you after you leave the ship.
Oh, okay.
So the first one I technically met outside the ship was Asterion. And he was, I wanted to kill him, frankly. You meet him, and he's like, "Oh, I trapped one of the brain eaters over there. Get him!" And your character's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Sure thing, brah." And so you go over to get it, and then like this like little hog comes like waddling out. It's like honks, it snorts at you, and then walks away. And then sure enough, Asterion appears behind you, and he's like, "Ha! I tricked you. Time to die."
Oh my gosh!
And so you scuffle with him, and then you have this endearing moment where you either give in or you escape, and then he's like, "Well, you're one of us then. You have the tadpole too." And you're like, "Oh yes, I do. You have a tadpole?" And he's like, "Yes, I have a tadpole. Let's compare sizes." And he's very funny. He's very mean and very sassy. I don't know what his sexuality is, but I'm assuming they're stereotyping him as gay because he has a very flamboyant voice. Mm-hmm. I don't know, because there's been no development there yet, but he seems kind of stereotyped as that. So I'm going to assume he is, and he just, like, the entire time he's like, "Oh, it's you. I hate you. What, you're going to talk more? Why don't you die?"
I love how all these companions just hate you, and they're just there because they have to.
It's a victim of circumstance thing.
Yeah, you all share this common pain,
the tadpole,
and so you have a common enemy even though you don't want to work with any of them.
So Asterius is a rogue. He's a vampire. Clearly, he doesn't mention this explicitly, but his teeth are clearly vampiric. So he's a vampire. He can walk around the sun though. So
Daywalker. He's a daywalker.
So he's a vampire rogue. He's really good in combat, and he was also able to lockpick things. So I loved having him in my party. And then after him, I met a companion who I didn't even mean to meet. There was a rune on the wall, and I was like, "Oh, a rune!" So I of course go over to explore it, and it turns out the rune is, it's the wizard. He immediately appears in front of you, and it's a Gale, the wizard. He's human. He's very basically human. He's dashing, and I'm so attractive. I just admire myself in my wizard reflection spell all the time. He likes you though. He doesn't want to kill you. He's actually a nice guy, and he's really good in combat too. The wizard stuff is great.
Oh yeah, is the magic cool in this game?
So magic is very reminiscent to original Baldur's Gate, and it's great. I mean, Larian always has fun spells, and they've incorporated some of their divinity mechanics into this game, which is with the oil spills, the stuff that you can light on fire.
That's cool.
And blow things up.
So environmental.
Yes, and Larian's always been really good at that, and it works. It translates very well into Baldur's Gate 3, and I like it a lot, and I've had a lot of fun. After I got Gale into my party, the combat was a lot of fun.
So it sounds like the companions are pretty cool, and the dialogue is good. Like the personalities, I should say, are good. What about the areas, like the places you go?
So, all good too. When you first exit the ship, which you're not exiting, you're kind of thrown from it. The immediate area you explore is basically the wreckage of the ship, and it's on kind of like a sandy, rocky, beachy area with lots of dead seamen. And I mean seamen as in fishers, not the other one. So calm your dirty mind.
We are talking about tadpoles. So
calm your dirty mind. These are not that type of tadpole. So you kind of explore a lot of ruined areas because of that. You explore the wreckage of the ship itself. You encounter the Mind Flayer himself as well.
So is it one singular Mind Flayer?
There are other Mind Flayers, but
Okay.
this is apparently the game denotes him as the one.
Okay.
And you have a moment with him where he tells these people to kill you, and then he looks at you and he's like, "Save me, you love me, you have my tadpole in you." And basically, I stomped his head in. I crushed his head like a watermelon.
Oh, you actually kill him?
I killed him. I wanted to see what I could do, but I was just like, yeah, I'll just crush his head like a watermelon. So I did, and that was good. That was a fun little encounter.
Okay, so before we move on to environments, you just reminded me of a question I had.
Sure.
All these companions that you run into, is it possible to just be like F them and don't even like interact with them, or is it part of the story where you have to?
You can completely not interact with them. You could even kill them if you wanted to, I'm sure.
Oh.
I haven't tried, but I'm sure you could.
So in that Mind Flayer situation, could you have like obeyed and helped them?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't trying to get me to kill any of my companions, but there were some humans around that he was contorting their mind.
Okay.
Like the human thought that the Mind Flayer was his daughter, and he was trying to get me to help, and then he realized that I was an enemy, and the Mind Flayer was like, "Kill him," and so then they all tried to kill him because they thought I was going to try to kill this guy's daughter.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I keep asking questions here,
Sure.
but do you know why your character can still control himself even though he has a tadpole?
So that comes up a little later.
Okay,
where your characters say, "Why aren't we turning?"
Okay, so I guess we should say like we should probably stop there so there's no spoilers.
Sure.
Maybe we can do a spoiler cast on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so far the stuff I've said, it happens in the first 30 minutes of gameplay, so I don't think it's that spoilery.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you were like hours in at this point.
No. This is within the first hour. Like this is a very full game. There's a lot in it.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite areas, though, I mean, I'm not that deep in the game, but so far I really enjoyed this place, was the ruined temple. You come up to it, and you encounter these two guys who are arguing. And what is his name? Of Gimblebach and...
Reasonable name.
Yeah, guess how tall he was.
Like 3 feet tall.
Yes, exactly.
Like he's either a goblin or a dwarf or some kind of gnome creature.
He's Gimblebach, and he's like 3 feet tall. And then there's Tammin. I think their name was Tammin or Tarmin. And they're arguing. They basically want to decide what they should do about the ship that just crashed nearby. And you can interrupt their argument. You can tell them to leave. You can say, like, you guys should leave. This is dangerous. And if you pass the persuasion roll, they will leave. If you don't, they will attack you. And what my favorite thing was, though, is that they're standing on this kind of stone platform. Not a platform. It's like a floor, like a tiled floor of stone. And above them is a large, like, hanging piece of rock. And at first, I didn't notice it. I was kind of like, well, what can I do? They're really difficult to kill. And then I saw the rock. And you can shoot the rock, and the rock falls, and it crushes them, and then collapses through the floor, opening an entrance into the temple.
Oh my gosh.
So when I did that, I was like, whoa, okay, that's awesome. I loved it.
Is that your only way to get into the temple, or is that
No, there are definitely other ways. There's a door past where they were arguing.
Okay.
And then there is another door that I walked past it earlier, And I think there was another companion in front of it, and I didn't talk to her.
Oh.
And now she's gone.
Uh-oh.
So I want to say that since it was a female companion, I want to say that was probably Shadowheart. Because I read about the companions, and I didn't meet her. So
oh, no. Maybe
she's not there anymore.
Maybe there's a chance you'll meet him somewhere else in the game.
I hope so, because I want to talk to the companions. But yeah, so I collapsed the floor. I went into the temple. It's basically a ruin. It's a ruin you can loot, but it's full of these bandits who are trying to get in. So you fall in, you get in, and I had Gale and I had Asterion with me, and they helped a lot. If I didn't have them, I'd be dead. And you kill the rest of the bandit party. They're also pretty tough, but I managed to combine a little bit of grease and oil and fire and killed most of them in one fell swoop.
Ooh, there we go.
That's one of the hey, by the way, one of the fun things about Larian games, Divinity, and Baldur's Gate is combining things to create an effect that you might not be able to beat the fight without.
That's what sounds cool, and this is the part of these games that I do like, is that I may be underleveled, and these guys will probably kick my ass, but if I'm smart enough to figure out how I can use my abilities combined with what's around me, I can turn the tides. Like, if I can get everyone underneath this grease spill or whatever, and use my fire spell, then I can wipe these guys out, even if they're higher level than me.
It's literally, if there's a will, there is a way.
Yeah.
And there is always a way. And in this case, I found it with that. They weren't too hard, but they were difficult. And I got the bandits. Then you kind of get into this ruin where it's not big. I mean, these ruins are never that big. But there's like little puzzles. So you walk around, you find these switches, you pull the switches, they open another door. And you get into the lower ruins, which is where the bandits were trying to get to. They couldn't figure out how to get into the lower ruins.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have any bandits, and it's also empty, suspiciously. So while you're walking around, you encounter these books and cool things. And your character's like, what was this temple dedicated to? Who worshipped here? It's so ancient. And it's really cool. It's very mysterious and very cool. I enjoyed the hell out of this place. And then you get to the end of it. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I don't want to spoil it, but it's very cool. It's fun. And you also encounter another character at the very end who is technically not a companion, but they help you in your party later on. And it was a very satisfying finish, and I loved that little ruin. It was fun. It was very fun.
How many people can you have in your party at a time?
I believe it's 5.
5 people?
I believe it's 5. I mean, that's the classical number in these games. I believe it's 5 people.
Oh, okay. Including yourself?
Including yourself.
Okay.
So as of now, like I said, I have Lizelle, I have Asterion, and Gale. So I hadn't mentioned how I met Lizelle yet, but you meet her. I met her basically right after I finished the temple.
Okay.
I walked out, and then Lizelle was like, "Hey, you, fuck you, help me!" And so I helped her, and now she's in my party.
So that's where you meet her again?
Like right there, basically.
Okay.
I'll never know what happened to Shadowheart. Maybe she's gone. Maybe she
Shadowheart.
I'll never see her again. I should have talked to her. I just figured I had time.
I love like the differences in these names. You got like Lizelle, and then Gale, and then Shadowheart.
So guess what? Gale's a human. Shadowheart, I'm assuming, personally, her name reminds me of Shadowmere from Oblivion, so she reminds me of a horse. But I'm assuming she's an elf or something like that with that kind of name.
Yeah.
Asterion is an elf, I believe. I believe he's an elf, but he's a vampire, so it's kind of hard to tell.
I just think of Hades now with Asterius and the Minotaur. I'm like, Asterion.
Yeah, he is Asterius in Hades is way nicer than Asterion in this game.
Yeah, he's actually pretty nice.
He's pretty and reasonable.
Yeah, he's a very reasonable Minotaur.
He's just very honorable. He's like, I have to fight with him. Like he just does what he does. But Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3 is a raging shitheel. But in a very endearing way, I suppose you could say. But that's up to your interpretation. So
anything else in this game that you want to point out? I know you're not that far into it, so we'll have to update.
I'm only a few hours into it, and I've spent a lot of time just enjoying the detail of the game. But I got to the main town, I guess. Not the main town, but like the first town, which I think is called Druid Grove. That's what it's called. It's called Druid Grove. And so far I'm meeting more and more characters, which are great. But I'm also encountering that dialogue thing, which is just, it feels weird sometimes. Mm-hmm. The dialogue, it's a very good system, but it feels a little, it feels abrupt sometimes, where you feel like there should be more to say, and there just isn't. And I've never really had that problem in any other game, especially Larian games, but in this case I do.
Interesting. Well, it is an early access.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember off the bat when it's supposed to go live?
I don't. I think it's in months, like
In a couple months?
a month or two.
So they don't have too much time to really iron out the details.
I could be wrong on that. Like, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I'm a little surprised with how rough around the edges this game still is. That's an unfair statement, perhaps, but I was expecting a little more polish at this point.
Well, the good news is that there's all kind of ways you can get around that nowadays. I mean, Cyberpunk, for example, has changed its release date like 4 times.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be bobothered if they did. I mean, I did beta testing. I did alpha and beta testing for Divinity Original Sin. Before that came out, I did testing for that. So I get how these games are, but in this case, early access. This was before Divinity was in early access, so I got why it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
This is an early access, and it wasn't just released yesterday. So I don't know. It's still a really good game, and I'm definitely going to play the hell out of it, and I'm still playing the hell of it. I'm actually want to go play right now, but it's a little rough around the edges still. So if you aren't sure about it, I would wait a little longer.
I'm thinking back to when they first announced this, and I'm almost 99% sure it was during the Google Stadia announcement, because everyone was saying like what's worth playing on Google Stadia.
Yeah.
And so I guess Stadia, they got the go ahead to reveal it.
Okay.
I could be 100% wrong right now. Again, this is what I'm thinking, because I remember watching that and being like curious about Stadia, which is no one's using it.
No one's using it.
Good try, Google. It's a really, really great idea.
It's very cute.
But the internet infrastructure in the United States is not ready for this right now. There's like a 1% population that can handle that, and it's called fiber, and not many people have that. So
not many people are blessed with such things.
Yes.
In California, a lot are, but we aren't. We actually are just missing fiber right now.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate. It's a very cool idea, but I just remember it was either Xbox or Stadia. It was one of those two, and it was supposed to get people riled up to use that platform. And so now it's like, okay, here we are.
So the reception to it being early access is big. Like, people are buying it and enjoying it, and for good reason. Larian is doing very right by this series. This is a very well-loved IP.
Yes, they did adopt it, basically. Where
Baldur's Gate is a very well-loved IP from the get-go. I mean, it's attached to D&D, so you have a lot of very diehard fans who love this game, and for good reason. It's a fun title, a fun series. The characters are great. I mean, again, I'll just mention one of my favorites from the past games was Minx with his little hamster. I loved it. Like, Boo. Oh, Boo. Like, he was fun.
Did the hamster talk?
The hamster did not talk. He talked to the hamster. He's like a big barbarian type guy who has a pet hamster they talk to named Boo. It's very stereotypical, but he was fun.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, made by Larian, who they have their distinctive touch to the game, it's still very good. It just feels a little rough for what I was expecting from at this point in early access.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you bought it so you could give us a take on that.
I am very glad I bought it. So if you're wondering, it's worth buying. Just maybe wait a little longer if you want a game with more polish.
Yeah,
it's gonna get it. Larian will polish this game up. They just haven't yet.
Yeah, that's the great thing about early access is they have that freedom. They're getting all this feedback for sure. That's the whole reason early access exists, is to get feedback. And like you said, they always come out with their last game was Divinity 2, right?
Divinity 2 was a fantastic title.
And it was like critically acclaimed big time.
And it also had the prison start too.
Did it really? Are you serious?
I'm sorry, but yes.
Oh my god.
It's still a great title.
For how creative these people are, it's like, isn't there something else you can do?
It's not lack of creativity, it's just tried and true.
I guess you're right. It's just a classic intro.
But Larian is great company. Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a very, very good game, and as it is now, it is a great game. It just needs a little work. That's it.
Cool. All right.
So Garrett, now that I've talked my head off about my game, do you have a game you want to talk about?
Yeah, give me a turn. Come on.
Yes. Sorry. Give me a turn.
Come on, man. No, I actually wanted you to talk mostly that because it's new and exciting.
It is.
Unfortunately for me, I'm still playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory.
Okay, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Tell me more about that, because last time we talked about that, I feel like we cut it off pretty short. So please talk about that one more.
Yeah, I didn't. At the time, I'd only put a couple hours into it. I feel like I'm more prepared to discuss it more. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts Melody and Memory, or Memory of Melody.
Melodies
It's one of those
of sadness and memories and 365 days of
the music's game. Yes,
it's Kingdom Hearts.
it gets mixed up in my head all the time. But I'm very, very surprised of how much I'm enjoying this. And I think I mentioned before that I was a little surprised by the $60 price tag on it at first.
Me too.
Because when I first saw this, I saw the graphics, and I'm like, they are using assets from like decade-old games.
They're nothing to write home about, that's for sure.
They look good.
They upscaled them though, right?
Yeah, it all looks really good,
Okay.
but it's like you're playing Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts, not even Kingdom Hearts 2, you're playing like Kingdom Hearts 1 Sora.
So I played the demo and I loved how it looked in that Alice in Wonderland place. I really enjoyed how that looked.
And that's what they're banking on, is this whole game is a love letter to the Kingdom Hearts series.
Yep.
They want you to feel nostalgic. I mean, there's over 140 songs, which
yeah.
at first I was like, I feel like I'm gonna go through that really quick. And as I've been playing, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much content.
So Garrett tweeted this little video that he had done of the game where his little gummy ship is cruising through all of the levels in the game, and it goes on and on and on and on.
It was almost that's why I had to post it, is because it was so comical of how long this, and you think it's almost over, and then you get to the end and it branches out heavily at the very end.
I was blown away. I was like, this is a $60 game. Okay, now I get it.
That's what happened, is I opened up the adventure mode. So I guess I should start at like the main menu. So you've got like it's called World Tour, I think.
Okay.
Which is like the adventure mode, the story mode.
Rock Band World Tour.
Exactly. Then there's track selection, which is your classic, just find the song you want to play and play it. And then there's the museum, which is used to just like show you all the collectibles you find in the game.
Like all your Luigi's Mansions paintings.
Exactly. It's where you find all your paintings and your keyblades and all that kind of stuff. And then there's like a co-op mode too. And so
Co-op mode's fun.
Yeah, we did play the demo.
Yeah,
we did the co-op.
I enjoyed that.
And they did it very well. I'll touch on that a little bit after this. And you can play online as well. So
cool.
So you can play online versus other people. It's just like a classic. If you ever play Rock Band or Guitar Hero, it's you go against the other person, and you can either play with no power-ups or you can play with power-ups on. They're called something else, but it's basically
the power-ups what you use to destroy those larger enemies, correct?
Oh no, so in this one it's actually totally different.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you're playing online co-op battle mode, you basically, if you hit enough, like I think the way it works
Star power?
It's like a star power kind of thing. But if you remember in the Guitar Hero games,
yeah,
when you use the star power or something, it actually did something wrong to the opponent's board.
Oh yeah,
remember how it adds more notes, it makes it so they're invisible, it makes them so they're flashing.
So in Kingdom Hearts, you use your whammy bar to like make it go.
Yeah,
extreme?
You got to use the whammy bar on the controller.
You have Dawn like.
And it's kind of cool. So in this one, it makes it so like enemies, one of them's like where you don't get as much score. One of them where if you get hit, you take more damage.
Oh, debuffs.
Yeah, they're all debuffs.
Okay,
that's the word I was looking for, is debuffs. In this game, it has like a little circle that starts large and then gets small, and that's how you judge the timing.
Yeah.
And so there's also a debuff where it doesn't show the circle.
Oh.
Which, if you're not good at rhythm games, it can be really hard.
That would be the end of me right there.
So luckily, if you listen to the music and you're on a difficulty that's not too bad, you can kind of guess. You start learning at what distance the enemy away from you is where you should be hitting it.
That was my problem.
But even then, you have to use certain buttons for certain enemies. So like the ground enemies, you just press like the X or the trigger buttons. It's like your classic attack. Then there's the magic one where you have to press triangle, or the one. I'm saying this from the PS5 perspective. So there's like 3 different attacks. There's basic attacks, jump attacks, and then magic attacks. And it's just different buttons. And the way it works is you're running down this lane. And so if you're
basically a Guitar Hero lane, like you're running down the fretboard of the Guitar Hero game.
Exactly. There's 3 lines, one for each of your characters. And when the enemies are running towards you on the board, and when they get close to you, you just have to press the right button in the best timing that you can. And the more accurate it is, the more score you get. And if you miss it, then you get hit. Like the enemy hits your characters, and
your health goes down.
health goes down.
Yeah.
And so if you get hit too many times, you die. You got to start over. There's items that you can use. Where like if your health gets below 20%, you'll use this magic potion, and it gets you, gets you back up to like 80% or 100%. I haven't had to use those, but
it doesn't seem like the health is a big deal.
It would be.
It would be?
Yeah, if you're not good at rhythm games, then it can be really tough.
Because when I was playing with you, I was getting trashed.
So what happened in the co-op, it looked like, is that it was just reviving you.
Oh.
And I don't know if that was...
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh.
Because I don't think it can just stop the song and be like, player 1 wins.
Okay.
So I think it was just recharging your bar up, yeah.
It was being nice because I was a little baby.
It was being nice.
Wow.
So on the online mode, yeah, you just have the debuffs, and whoever has the highest score at the end wins.
Okay.
And that's kind of cool. There's also a like an AI version where you can play against a computer, and it's kind of like this offline battle mode.
Okay.
Where you're playing against these computers, and
It's good practice mode.
and it works like a my best comparison is like a League of Legends kind of like bronze, silver, gold tier, where you have to start off against really, really easy opponents,
And then you build up?
and then you build up.
Oh.
And so I did it for a while, but it was like you're playing the beginner difficulty. They're really, really bad. It's really easy. And so you kind of have to build your way up.
Is it just kind of a
up the
drag?
echelon. I mean, it's a cool mode. Like if you don't want to play online against other people, this is a good way to practice, because it's it's going to be the best you can get. I might do it just to unlock the trophies that are surely in store for this. Like to get to the top.
Definitely.
So yeah, and then there's that, and then the co-op is really cool because, like Ben said, in one player you're just running down like the fretboard where there's 3 lines, but on co-op they're separate, but they're together, and so you'll have the enemies coming down the lanes, but then they'll like swap to the other lane, and so you don't really know which ones are going to be yours and which ones are going to be your partners. So it was a lot of fun.
And you also get to play as the whole gang. You get to play as Sora and Riku, or who are the other guys?
Yeah, okay. So there's 4 different teams you can play as. You unlock them as you do the World Tour mode. So you start with the Team Classic, which is Sora, Donald, and Goofy. After that, you unlock Team Days, which is the Organization 13
of
characters.
Course, yes, I remember.
So you got Axel, Shion, and what's his name? Roxas.
Is Shion the girl?
Yeah, Shion's the girl.
I remember she was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then you get Team BBS, which is Birth by Sleep. So that's Ventus, Aqua, and Terra.
Basically, Aqua being the best of the group, and I mean Terra's cool.
Aqua was so OP in Birth by Sleep. She was also the most fun to play in my opinion.
That's why I say she's the most fun to play.
She was like the mage.
Who the hell wants to play as Ventus?
He's Sora though.
I'm sorry. I don't want to play as like Sixth Sense child, like whining about his senses. Like I don't really want to play that.
He really was whiny. And then the last one you can play on is called Team 3D, and this one's based off of the Dream Drop Distance game. And you play as Riku and 2 of like the heartless creature things that were in Dream Drop Distance.
Why?
I don't know. One of them's the bat.
Does Riku not have any friends?
I know. I'm like, what's going on here? So it's Riku, and then there's like Meow Wow.
Meow Wow.
Meow Wow's like the cat thing.
Meow Wow.
And then there's some bat which doesn't have a very.
Is the bat name. like Biat?
No, it didn't. It had like a much more basic name.
Bat.
It was like something bat.
It was just Shriek.
So those are the 4 teams you can play as. I've just been playing as Team Classic because when you're playing in the World Tour mode, you level up.
Ooh.
And so it increases your health, it increases your defense and strength and stuff like that. I don't know how strength has anything to do in this game.
I mean, you kill the enemies if you hit the right note.
Yeah, like
what's the point?
Like defense, I get.
Oh wait, no. There's those certain enemies that if you hit them, they bounce back.
So
maybe the strength makes it so you kill them quicker.
That's what I was thinking, because yeah, you're right. And in the game, there's certain enemies where one hit doesn't hit them. And so it might be like, you got to hit them 4 times, you got to hit them 8 times, 10 times, and they just bounce back and they become part of like the game again.
The oncoming board.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good point. Maybe, but it's also like the hits are needed for the score counter. So I don't know how that would really work, because if you were practicing the track,
maybe it just buffs your score counter.
It might just buff it, yeah. Because I don't know how else these stats make any sense. Like health, I get, defense, I get, but strength, I don't, or magic or anything, I don't really get it. So I've just been playing as them. I'm gonna assume max level is 99. I'm at like level 68 right now on Team Classic. I don't know if the other team gameplay is any different, other than I know they use different spells and different attacks. So it's just a cosmetic thing.
Totally. So there's a lot of worlds, obviously.
Yes.
Is each world a singular like theme, or do they like kind of go off from each other?
I want to say,
like, is there only 2 songs for Alice in Wonderland, or is there multiple Alice in Wonderland worlds that you encounter later on?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So if you saw that video, which if you follow us on Twitter at Pod Out of Mana,
please do.
Please follow us, please. You can see the video. Tons of worlds. I mean,
tons of worlds.
This is covering literally every single Kingdom Hearts game that's
and then
been made.
Some.
Yeah, and then games like I didn't even think existed.
Even Traverse Town, who everyone forgot about. How dare they? Go on.
Each world has 1 to 2 songs. So I haven't found any worlds that have more than 2 songs.
So once you finish those 2 songs, you never see that world again. You never see that theme again.
I want to say no. I think I've seen a few different ones. That's a good. I'm thinking back because I'm thinking of Alice in Wonderland, and I feel like I hit it again. But I want to say no.
I guess when it comes down to it, those worlds didn't have a lot of music to play, so it was kind of the background battle theme and then the boss theme.
So the way it's divided out is by game.
Okay.
And so you start with like Kingdom Hearts 1, obviously.
The best.
And then you get to like 2, and then it has some of the offshoot games. So now I'm thinking about it, there's only certain levels that reuse it often, and that's like the Castle Oblivion.
Okay, yeah.
Which what was that? Chain of Memories?
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole one, I think they only had like 2 different maps, even though there was multiple different worlds. So they do reuse some of the backgrounds.
Okay.
But the enemies that are used in that round are only enemies that you would see in that world.
I like that theme,
which
how
is
they do
cool.
that. I like how they condense the enemies to their proper worlds. Like, they don't just go basic with it.
Yeah, and it actually does add to the challenge sometimes,
Cool.
because the way that they move makes it hard to determine how the heck they're gonna get there.
Oh.
Like you'll see like the nobodies like wiggling towards you, and sometimes they sometimes they go into the board and they like swim. And then they come back out, so it's
that would be disorienting.
It's kind of
having them spaghetti at you like that.
Yeah, and it's weird. Typically, they're doing it in the opposite direction, so they're going the same way as you, and then they'll just pop out of nowhere, and then you have to like hit them.
Damn.
And sometimes it can be really soon. Sometimes it can be like
those nobodies, man.
So yes, back to the worlds. There's a lot of variety. I'm just gonna say there's a lot of variety.
I mean, they cover every game.
They cover every game.
If you don't know already from what we've said and from what we have said in the previous podcast, Kingdom Hearts has a lot of break-offs.
Yeah, there's a lot of break-offs. What's fun is that if you know Kingdom Hearts, there's a lot of Disney influence.
There is a lot.
And so like half of these worlds are Disney related, which is a lot of fun.
Like we said, Alice in Wonderland, and you have Cinderella. You get do you get the Robin Hood movies?
I don't think so.
Oh, damn.
As far as I know, unless it's in one of those offshoot games, which I guess
we didn't play all the games, we wouldn't know. But you get some cool. You get Toy Story. You get even
Frozen.
You get Frozen,
Yeah.
And you get Tangled.
Yep.
Dude, and of course Hercules.
Yep, I've done a few Hercules. There's the Underworld one too.
And then
yep.
Tradition. Yes.
If you play Kingdom Hearts, you've heard that theme like a million times.
A lot of times.
Because you spend a lot of time in the Coliseum.
If you wanted to get Sephiroth, you had to listen to that a lot of times.
Oh my god, that song. When I first played that, I'm like, how the heck are they going to make a track out of this? It's so slow and boring.
But they do.
It was very unstimulating, to say the least.
Aww.
But I made it through it.
Oh,
that's another thing, is when you go to these themed worlds, you actually, one of your party members is replaced by a character from that world.
Hercules or
Yeah, so in the Hercules world, Hercules replaces, it's always Donald that gets replaced.
Aww.
So Goofy's always with you, so Donald gets put on the bench. But yeah,
What?
Hercules, let's see, who else have I seen? Aladdin. I've had Beast from Beauty and the Beast. I've had Simba.
Good old Simba. That was one of my favorite parts of Kingdom Hearts 2 was the furry Sora, which is like Simba Sora just running around on his four legs. That was so cool.
That was really neat.
That was cool. That was really cool.
I was kind of hoping that in certain worlds the costumes would change.
Sora's costume?
Yeah, because they did that in the game.
They did.
Depending on what world he went to, his costume and look changed.
So they don't.
They don't, no.
Aww.
You just get like the person from that world.
Major bummer.
Which is, it's
or bummer day.
Kingdom Hearts, Melody of Memory of Melody. Anyways, I legitimately cannot remember which order it goes in.
It's just Kingdom Hearts.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm about halfway through the story now.
Okay.
I think I'm halfway through.
And you still have plenty to go, by the sounds of it.
It feels like I've been playing this forever, but I went to the log that says playtime. It was like 6.5 hours.
Okay, not too bad. But you're also really good at rhythm games, so a lot of people are going to be having a harder time.
I was going to say, I think by the time I finish this, I'll have clocked maybe... I'd say I got like 3 more hours left to finish the story. So it's like I'd say between 8 to 10 hour game.
It's a solid game. It's worth $60 potentially then.
And so when you go to these worlds, they have each song from each world has a checklist of challenges, and you have to beat these challenges to unlock stars to move on.
Oh, so you have to go back to the song and do something specific?
Yeah. So so let's say we went to Cinderella and it played like the Cinderella world had 2 songs in it. Each of those songs has a challenge list of 3 things you had to complete to get the stars for them.
Okay.
So say you needed 2 stars to move on to the next world, you only need to get 2 of those 3 done to be able to move on. So you're not required to get all of them, but it does pose a challenge to people who aren't good at rhythm games. It's definitely going to prolong their gameplay because they might get stuck on a world for a while if they can't get, like for example, one challenge is just like get a score of this or higher. One of them is get a chain, like hit 60 notes in a row.
That's mean.
And they get harder where it's
that would be the end of me.
Like the grading system is like miss, good, excellent, and then rainbow excellent, which is like perfect.
Rainbow excellent. They type out rainbow excellent, not perfect.
No, there's excellent and then it's excellent like in rainbow colors.
Excellent rainbow. Yeah.
These rhythm games, they always make it more complicated than it has to be.
The Japanese rhythm games,
So I haven't been having trouble with it. There's like only been a few songs where I have to replay it, and that's because it's forcing me to go to an easier difficulty.
Oof. So
I'm playing on there's basically easy, medium, and hard. And so I'm playing on hard. And some of the challenges are like get a 70 note streak on medium difficulty or do this on easy difficulty or whatever like that. So like I want to play through all the songs on the hardest difficulty, and so sometimes I'll have to redo a song a couple times. Another one is like defeat 140 of this enemy in this track, but depending on which difficulty you play, because each difficulty is a whole different set of enemies and a whole different map, which is cool because if you think about it, there's over 140 songs, and that means if you start on beginner, that's like over 140 tracks, and then you move to the medium mode, 140 tracks, totally different, and then the hard mode. I mean, you're looking at like 246, like probably close to like 600 different things you're playing.
Jeez.
So there's a lot of content in this, especially if you're someone who isn't great at rhythm games, because for me, I don't have a lot of...
You probably get it on the first try mostly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm getting it on the...
You can say it. We won't hate you.
I'm getting it on the first try on the hard ones, so... To go back to like the easier difficulty, it's not going to be fun. I'm going to be going through the motions, but that also means I'm missing out on a ton of content because even though it's the same song, the whole pattern is different. So there's been a few fun ones where like I go back.
Do you have to specifically choose these challenges when you start the song?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to. They're there. It's like a checklist.
You have to fulfill them,
and you just have to fulfill them.
Okay.
And yeah, like I was saying, there's somewhere you have to defeat a certain X amount of enemies, and I may have to replay the song again to get up to that much. Like I may need 150, but that track only had 90 of them, and so I would have to do it twice to get that. And yeah, I'm just completing every world 100% before I move on, because that's just how I operate.
So you're 100%ing each song before you move on?
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Well, I'm not getting like 100% score, like no misses. I'm just completing all the challenges because it'll say cleared if you pass a song, but it'll say complete underneath the world if you've fulfilled all the challenges for each song.
Oh.
So it's kind of just like a completionist thing in my mind. I'm just like, I gotta get the complete.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
Most people are gonna want that. So, what? Anything else about the game?
I was gonna say, do you have any specific questions about it? Because I feel like I may be leaving something off here.
So how is the story? Like, is the story? Is it that? How else can I put it? Juicy? Is it worth biting into this game to get the story?
So I think like 99% of the game is recap. Basically what's happening is you're playing through these worlds, and then every so often you get to a world where it has like a little cinema.
It flashes back.
Icon.
It's like Sora, Riku, Sora, Mickey, Donald.
So Kairi is one of the main characters in the game.
Kairi, of course.
And so this game is going through Kairi's memories. And so she's retelling the...
Kairi hasn't been in like any of the games. What is she doing?
She apparently knows everything because she is fine detailing. And I do have to say that if you've never played Kingdom Hearts before...
This will make no sense.
It actually does.
Oh, it does?
So they do a pretty good job. I mean, there's a lot of filler stuff that they skip.
Oh.
So it's like bullet points.
What about Ventus? What about Roxas?
They talk about them too.
What about the popsicles and the usual spot?
They're on the usual spot. You actually do see the usual spot, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no.
And the popsicles.
Oh, no.
So Kyrie's basically giving a recap of everything that happened in the last games, which is cool because if you know much about Kingdom Hearts, it's kind of entering like a new era. So after the latest game, it kind of ended that chapter, and now you're moving on to, okay, what's next? And so for people who may not want to go back and play like 500 hours worth of Kingdom Hearts game, you can play this game or watch the thing on YouTube.
Oh, that's what you mean. So it's a good recapper.
It's a whole, like, again, yes, this whole game is a giant recap of the entire series.
So you don't need to watch the whole soap opera. You can just check in this and get it.
Yeah, and so as long as you play through this game, Kyrie's going to tell you everything that happened in each game.
Sweet.
In a very, very condensed way to where you're not going to get that. I mean, it's still confusing, and it helped recap some of the games that I didn't really understand. But I mean, it's kind of better than watching a 20-minute breakdown YouTube video like we did on some of these games.
Yeah.
Where you're left at the end and you're like,
okay,
so I just have to accept that this is happening.
I have to accept that any of this makes sense and that this is happening.
Because it doesn't.
So one thing, do you get to hear the song? Do you get to play the song? Simple and Clean. Do you get to play it?
Oh yeah, it's in this. Every song you want is in this game. So Simple and Clean is.
Is that like a beginner song or is that like the finale song?
It's not in the world tour. If I remember correctly, I want to say it's in the very, very beginning.
Okay.
So
It'd have to be, I guess.
I guess I should explain this too. There's different gameplay styles. So there's the classic one we were talking about where you're running down the board and enemies are coming and you press in time. There's also boss battles. I can't believe I almost forgot this.
Okay.
So there's boss battles.
Go on.
And what's happening is in the background on the screen, your team is fighting against the boss, and the note stream is coming in this weird like crescent shape where it's almost like
it's wrapping around.
It's wrapping around.
Okay.
And so it comes to the very front of the screen, and you just have to hit the notes in time. So it has nothing to do with you defeating enemies.
Okay.
It's just showing buttons you have to press.
And is it causing your character to do more damage to the boss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the more you're hitting, there's special notes where if you get them all in a row, it increases the chance of you blocking the enemy's attack. So it might be like 20 notes in a row, and if you hit all 20 of them, you're not going to take any damage. If you hit maybe 17 of 20 of them, you're not going to take that much damage.
Does this cover all the bosses in the game?
It covers it just covers like the main big ones.
Did you get like, submit?
No, you don't get. You get basically Ansem and Ansem 2 and Ansem 3 and Xehanort.
Original Ansem, submit. And what about here? What about Sephiroth?
I haven't seen him yet.
Oh,
they've got to add him though.
I hope so.
That would, man, imagine the Fallen Angel, or what's that song called?
Sephiroth theme,
the
dude.
Sephiroth theme, Half-Wing Angel. That's what it is.
I'm not gonna reproduce it here because I won't do it justice. But that theme is I bought that theme on disc back then because I loved that song so much.
That is. I hope that they
Advent Child was a song. It was a movie. Oh my god, I loved it.
So the boss battles are really cool and they're hard.
Yes, I bet.
That was one thing I had to replay multiple times because I wasn't getting the challenges on it because it was one of them was so hard. I couldn't miss a certain one. They also add different kind of moves that you have to do.
Ooh.
So there's ones where you just have to like, since you're not fighting enemies anymore, it can be more creative. And so it could be like analog tilts, like left, up, right, down.
Okay.
And it gets kind of tough because there's like holds and then there's presses, magic attacks, and then it has these tilts. And you have to do a lot of them at the same time. So this is the point in the game where playing on the hard difficulty actually like
makes it hard.
Man,
I'm getting tilted just thinking
because
about it.
It's mainly the holds.
Yeah.
Because with the hold notes, you have to press the button to start the hold, and then you also have to release it at the right time. So, and if you don't release it at the right time, then it drops a note and your score goes down.
And you have this on the PS5, right?
Yes.
Does this incorporate any of the, dynamic triggers?
No. So this is a PS4 game.
Okay, fair enough.
Unfortunately, the way a lot of these games are going to be the next couple years, even Cyberpunk itself, it's a PS4, Xbox game.
Don't remind me of that.
But the good news is that they are releasing a free update. So if you get the PS4 version, when they release, like, it's going to be next year sometime. It's going to be, it might take half a year, but you'll get the free upgrade so it'll be fine.
Cool.
And then there's a third gameplay where you're basically just flying.
Flying?
You're
like Super Mario?
You're like Peter Pan flying through the air.
Oh, Peter Pan flying, of course, because how could we forget that?
And it's kind of more like the boss battles where it's not attacking kind of stuff. It's playing like a music video in the background. Some of the popular
this
songs,
is basically chill mode.
It's
chill
mode.
This is Netflix and chill mode.
Yeah. So you got simple and clean.
Of course.
It has one of those modes, but it also has like an attack mode too.
Good.
So if you go to track selection, in World Tour, you actually unlock these kind of modes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So these are bonus modes,
yeah, they're bonus modes.
Okay.
And so when you go back in track selection, you can play these songs. So like Simple and Clean has two different versions. Sanctuary, the theme of the Kingdom Hearts 2, has the two of those versions.
Yeah.
It's really hard because that song has like a weird rhythm in the beginning. It's almost like offbeat. And it was some of these songs, I gotta say, it's really hard to make a track out of them.
I bet.
And I can tell that they were struggling because some of them just like do not follow the rhythm at all.
I can imagine the Halloween Town one is really good.
Yes.
That one was killer, I bet.
That was probably one of my favorite ones so far.
Good.
And it's really early in the game too. So in fact, I was on streaming this game, and that was one of the first ones where the screen goes blue because it can't show it.
What?
Yeah, I should have mentioned before. I tried streaming this game.
Oh, because you're streaming and you can't copyright that.
Copyright.
Oh, dude.
So I've been wanting to stream this entire game.
You almost got shot in the head.
So the nice thing about PS5 is it blocks it for you.
Good.
So if it senses that there is copyright images or music or anything, it just blocks your screen out and it cuts the sound off.
Oh,
which sucks because I really wanted to stream this game through and through. But if it's going to be doing that like every 5 songs...
Describe the sensation. Was it amazing? Because that level...
That song...
When I first played that level in that game, I was ecstatic.
It was really cool. And you got all the, Halloween Town kind of monster looking people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
I hope there's another world where... Oh, they do. Yeah, there's the Christmas Town. So there's two Christmas songs.
Kingdom Hearts 2, right?
Yeah, and Kingdom Hearts 2.
Sweet, dude. Sweet.
So it's been a lot of fun. I'm barely halfway through the main world. I put like almost 7 hours into it. So I think I covered most about this game.
So has the Grand Master played it yet? Chris, has he played it yet?
No, this isn't his. Chris probably wouldn't play. He's too busy playing Clone Hero right now.
Because besides you, I only know Joey who's played it, and he has also said it's a great game, and he also teased me for being bad at it. So,
oh, did he?
Yes, he did.
We know you're listening right now, so we appreciate that you are listening and commenting on our stuff.
And I don't appreciate you teasing me, but whatever.
You'll have to let me know if you're enjoying the game still, because I know you said that rhythm games aren't your forte, but I'm happy to hear
he's apparently doing good. So good for him, I guess. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm happy that they made this game accessible to people because apparently at the end of the game it releases new story, so it's canon.
So it's a good recap. Like Garrett said, it's a good recapper, so you can recap games you had not played.
Yep.
And get more.
Yeah, and then you get a little tidbit at the end, which kind of apparently it shows where the series is potentially going.
A juicy, thick steak.
Yes, I hope so, because Kingdom Hearts 3, it was fun, it was beautiful, but it wasn't challenging.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like...
It didn't satisfy the story or urge. Like, I don't know about most people, but I wasn't satisfied with my... I wasn't given enough story in this game. And I didn't even like Kingdom Hearts 2 that much, but Kingdom Hearts 2 gave me way more story than Kingdom Hearts 3 did.
There was something about the third game where and I think it's in the second half of the game where you feel like it's just more Final Fantasy worlds.
Yep.
And it just abandons Disney.
Exactly.
And even some of the Disney stuff felt half-assed. Like
Toy Story and Hercules, yeah.
Like the Toy Story world was cool. Like the outside part was kind of neat when you're like a toy in the outside world.
Yeah, that was like 10 minutes of it.
10 minutes of it, and then you're just in like the toy shop.
Which was cool, but at the same time, it just...
The dialogue sucked, and it was so cheesy. Like Woody, I'm your best friend, Sora. I'm not gonna let you down.
And I'm sorry, but Woody and Buzz would do everything and anything to get back to Andy. Like, and they literally could care less.
Buzz was actually a really unimpressive character in this game.
They could care. They were like, "Oh, Sora, we want to stay with you forever. We don't care about Andy. We'll just stay here forever." And it's like, you guys do not care about getting back to the real world? You want to stay in this hell dimension?
That's okay. You're in this weird dimension. I forgot that happened. You're in this.
You're in a hell dimension, basically. Like.
And they're like, we'll stay here
for you
because we're best buds.
Who cares about Andy?
As like Woody writes Sora on his boot instead.
Yes, as he scratched out Andy and writes Sora. Dude,
enough about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
$60 is worth it. I'll just say that. I was a little set back at that at first. I thought this should be a $40 game. Looked like reused assets, but
they take it to a new level.
They take it to a new level. It's a great game. It's really smart. I think they did a great job with it.
Good.
I'm typically not an action button rhythm gamer where I'm like pressing buttons on a controller.
QTE rhythm gamer?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I'd rather have like some kind of gimmicky control, like whether it's a DDR pad or a guitar. Just pressing buttons on a controller.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games that like DJ Max, which is popular, that I just never got because I just didn't want to press buttons on my PS controller. I want something fun with it. But this game made me want to, because it wasn't just like a guitar fretboard.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
What if they release a special controller for it that's a Keyblade?
They won't, but I mean, I would probably buy it though.
I would buy that just to put on my wall.
Exactly, just as a prop to put on the wall.
I mean, that's pretty sweet. I think I'm sure plenty of people have Keyblades already, so who knows?
I need to get a Keyblade. Actually, that's a good idea.
We should do a thing where take pictures of your Keyblade. No, let's not do that because we don't need to see what people's Keyblades are. But totally. So it sounds like an awesome game.
I'll wrap it up there.
I'm really excited because I didn't really think much of it, and the $60 type price tag, like you said, was not very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to see it's a really cool game, and I'm glad to hear it's a really cool game. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, and you played a little bit, so
I did.
So you can, and we played it on the Switch here.
Yes, and I sucked liquid ass at it, but I enjoyed it.
And it ran pretty well on the Switch, I do have to say.
It did.
Definitely runs and looks way better on PS4, PS5. It's just gonna run better.
The Sony thing, yeah.
All right, anything else? Let's see here. I mean, I've been talking for a lot here, but any other games you've been playing?
No.
Just the Baldur's Gate?
Just Baldur's Gate, man. Just only Baldur's Gate.
For me, I have been focusing. I took a break from Kingdom Hearts because I was like burning myself out after like 4 hours straight of Kingdom Hearts music.
I bet.
And pressing buttons. I was getting dizzy. I'm like, okay, time to go back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I talked too much crap about it last time.
It was mostly me talking crap. So I'll
the more I've played, it's been getting really fun.
Has it?
And this game is freaking huge.
Are you still raiding monasteries with the screaming priests?
Yes, I literally did that last night. And they were terrified, to say the least. They were screaming. It's just so massive. Like I think I have 13 hours in that game. Okay. And I'm in England, and I'm pretty sure you can go other places too, but I have barely scratched that map. I'm like 15% of the map,
Seriously?
and
15% of England thus far?
yeah,
Dude.
Like I scrolled out of my map, and I'm like, I've only done like one section of this area.
Okay. Now I can get why people are saying that game is vast, because Origins was vast, and now I can see that they went exactly the same way with Valhalla. Cool.
I think Odyssey is the biggest.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so I think people have been saying Valhalla sits in between Origins and Odyssey.
Okay.
And I think Odyssey is the biggest.
Origins was massive. How could you be bigger than Origins? It was a desert.
And that's the weird thing is I remember Origins zooming out, and I'm like, there are like 13 different. They looked like states. Like the best way to describe it, they looked like
massive.
States.
Yes.
But for some reason, even though this game feels smaller because it's just England,
Yep.
I feel like I've covered so much ground going from point A to point B, and maybe that's the way it's happening is the perspective on the big map. Like when I move, it's not covering very much ground. Whereas in Origins, from like it looked big, but maybe as you're progressing, it just it wasn't as big as it actually looked. But with this one, I feel like I'm like trekking across hills and going into different areas, different biomes.
I'm really glad to hear that because I love to hear that.
Yeah,
I love games being big. I love it.
And I need to do this thing because I'm getting nervous because Cyberpunk is coming out December 10th.
Yeah.
Which
you need to finish the hell out of that game.
I need to somehow finish Valhalla, and I might have to just fast track the main quest because my problem is I keep exploring. I keep wanting to find all the mysteries and the artifacts because those are like the mysteries are fun. I mean, I also posted this. I came upon this random like hut thing in the woods, and there was these two children, and they're like, "You don't want to fight my grandpa, or, like my uncle or my grandpa. He can kill anything in just one hit."
I wonder what that sounds like.
They call him the Walloper.
The Walloper.
And I'm like, of course your guy's like, "Oh, I'm interested.
Of course I'm
Let's
interested.
meet this man.
I want to get walloped.
Let's brawl." And so he just comes out and he's just like, "No, like I don't want to." And if you've ever watched One Punch Man, it's an anime about this guy who's so overpowered that he hits them once and they just
and he's tired of it.
And he's depressed that he has no challenge. Like his life is depressing. And so that's exactly this guy. He's like, "I'm so sick of not having a challenge." Like, so he obliges and he like fights with you, and you barely scratch him. Like you're hitting him with your fists and stuff like that, and he doesn't take any damage. And he hits you once, and it's like you're knocked out. Like you fall to the ground. You don't die or anything, but it ends the thing. He's like, "All right, you got it." And he's just like, "Oh, how I wish I could just find a challenge." Blah blah blah. There's a lot of funny Easter eggs in this game. References to pop culture.
So speaking of Easter eggs, what are some of your favorite besides the Walloper?
Okay, so there's you get a tattoo shop.
Okay.
In your settlement.
Of course, Vikings.
And not everyone might get this, and maybe you don't remember this. Man, this would have been like 2004, 2005.
Do go on.
So there's little notes that you find in the games a lot of the time, and a lot of the Easter eggs are found in these notes.
Okay.
And in the tattoo shop, the tattooist was writing down like an idea of a new tattoo, and the way he describes it is about this dragon, but he's also a man, but he's a dragon. And it's Trogdor. Do you remember Trogdor?
Trogdor.
Oh God. It was just like a stupid YouTube video, I'm pretty sure. It's a stupid song, and the song was in Guitar Hero. It's like Trogdor.
Yeah, I remember now.
And it's just like this poorly drawn dragon man, and it's just like a silly song.
You've just raped my mind with that. Thank you for bringing that back from the depths.
And he describes Trogdor in the note, and it was one of those funny things I was reading. I'm like, oh my God.
Trogdor.
So there's just funny, silly things like that. Another one of the mysteries I mentioned, it's just random stuff that happens. Like one of them, you go to like this little island in this pond. I mean, like you could get from one side to the other in like 20 steps, and this guy's posted up there like it's his kingdom, and he's sitting in his throne. He's like, "You help me find this, and you have my allegiance. I'll go into battle with you with my army," and blah blah blah. Like all you have to do is like go underwater and find his like arm bracelet, and he pledges his allegiance to you and his kingdom. He's like, "Should I ever have an army, they're at your side."
What is this kingdom of praying mantises and ants? Like,
and it's just like this crazy guy that's just on this little mound in a pond that thinks
my
he has
God.
a kingdom. Another funny one was I was going to this new town and I was doing a bunch of exploring in the mountains. And I find this old man who's just standing next to this cliff with all his belongings.
You mentioned this in the last one.
Oh, did I?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He throws them off and
Yeah, he throws them
Did
off.
you ever go back and get them?
No.
Damn it.
I need to go see if there's any belongings down
Obviously, the game was telling you to go get them.
because he was as you're throwing it off, he's telling you all these prized possessions. So that one, I'll make a list of the good ones.
Okay.
And apart from that, you also find these like massive beasts, like these mystical.
Oh yeah, just like the white stag that you killed.
Yeah. So if you watch, if you
The one
watch
that was
this
like a Red Dead Redemption monster.
yeah, huge, like these massive beasts that you hunt. And I also found out that the reason that those exist is because you can get like a lodge, like a hunting guild kind of thing in your settlement, where you kill the monsters, you get the head, they taxidermy it, and like.
Do you have the heads, or do you have to kill them again?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So when I killed him, I collected it.
Okay.
And so
Because you don't have the guild, I assume, right?
I do now.
Oh, you do now.
So
Okay.
I built it now in my settlement, and now anytime I find one of these monsters, I can get it mounted, and it's like put in my longhouse.
Ooh, in your longhouse.
And you also get like rewards and stuff like that. So there's just I've barely scratched this game. I put like 13, 15 hours into it. I've barely scratched
So have
it.
some of the issues that we mentioned before, have they still been glaring, or are you now over them?
I mean, it's not really bothering me.
What about when you're out of the Animus and you have like G.I. Jane screaming at everybody and threatening their lives?
Okay, I haven't. I'm gonna do everything I can to not step out of the Animus again, and it's gonna force me to eventually, I think. But it's probably gonna be in like another 30 hours unless I.
Okay.
So
She was aggressive as hell. Like she was
know.
threatening everyone's life.
I'm gonna try to beeline through the main quest and try to get through. I hate rushing through games because it's like I spent $60 on this.
Cyberpunk, you have to.
But Cyberpunk,
You
December
have
10th.
to. I'm sorry, Assassin's Creed comes second to Cyberpunk.
And if I don't know if you saw this, there was some article about how one of the devs has been playing through Cyberpunk and he's put like 180 hours into it, and he hasn't finished the game. Like he hasn't. I'm sure he's gone through the main story, but he hasn't done everything there is to do in the game. That's insane, considering
That is crazy.
with Cyberpunk you can choose from, I think it's 3 different
There's
bring ups. There's corporate.
There's the corporate. There's the street one, and then there's the outsider. The one
Yes.
who doesn't live in the city. Like
Yep.
there's the poor, the rich, and then the one who hasn't lived in the city before.
Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
the country bumpkin.
Yeah. And all of them give you different perspectives.
Yeah,
On everything you encounter in this. I'm sorry to take this, but on everything you encounter in the game, you get a different perspective because of your upbringing.
yes. So the whole game is going to be different depending on where you start. So that
Yeah.
means you have to play this game 3 times to see everything there is to see.
Yeah.
Have you decided which one you want to do?
I'm very inclined towards the outsider, towards the one who I always like that kind of upbringing. Mm-hmm. But then it's probably going to be a moment, like when I'm in the moment I'll choose it, but I'm probably going to choose the outsider.
That's what I want to do because I feel like that's going to have the most interesting story.
Yeah, yeah.
But part of me also wants to be corporate because I know this game is super corrupt and effed
Super
up.
classist.
And so I really want to see how that incorporates into it because
Totally.
Night City is like, I forgot how the story is, but I think it's a lot of stuff's going to shit, and Night City is like one of the last.
Totally.
Everything's going on, and so I feel like if you're in that corporate thing, you're gonna see a lot of the effed up stuff, and I feel like you're gonna have access to like the upgrades and all the strings, the connections that you have in the corporate world.
I'm curious exactly what you'll get access to. We only know what we know, which is very little. Mm-hmm. And I'm very curious how exactly dramatic these changes are going to be.
Yeah,
So we'll have to see.
we will have to.
But
see.
they sound really awesome. So I'm hoping it's as awesome as it sounds.
And it's November 29th right now, so we won't have it next podcast, but the one after that, so in 2 weeks from now.
Ooh.
I mean, are you gonna get it day one?
I'm probably going to get it day one. Yeah,
you should.
I shouldn't, but I should.
I already pre-ordered it. I've been looking at it. I'm like, okay, do I really need this? Do I really need this?
Did you pre-order a physical copy?
Yeah,
Good boy.
I know.
I'm going to get it for the PC. I mean,
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to run really well on the PC.
I better.
I
better.
I read a little bit of a preview that someone did at IGN. They were able to play like 16 hours,
Okay.
so they got a good deep in it. apparently it's really good.
I fully expect it to be.
The only downside that I did hear about it is that with the combat, the enemies can be a bit bullet spongy.
Ooh.
Which is usually a turnoff for me in games.
That's a big turnoff usually, yeah.
But, and this is where the but comes in, it is only early game, and you unlock a bunch of different things throughout the game, which changes that.
Okay.
So one, you have to remember that, yeah, you may be shooting these guys in the head multiple times, they're not dying, but they're also cyborgs, for one. Like, everyone is, they're skeletons, and everything is modded.
Fair enough.
So these are like modded human beings.
Okay.
The previewer said that you basically unlock different skills and abilities which change how combat works and feels. So in the beginning, it may feel like a little like you're weak and everything's bullet spongy, but you're going to start unlocking things which makes combat a lot more interesting in different ways that you can deal with these enemies that make them not feel like bullet sponges.
So that makes me feel a little better about it, because bullet sponge is usually bad. That was one of my least favorite parts about Oblivion, which is your favorite game.
Yep.
Was the bullet sponge in the, not bullet sponge, but it was like the health sponge in the late game.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with what I'm hearing right now. I'm okay with this.
So that's the only thing that worried me. Apart from that, apparently the game is beautiful. The dialogue's really good.
Good.
The driving actually feels pretty decent.
Okay, that's good
it's
news.
It's nothing impressive, but it's not a driving game.
It's a new game. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, apparently driving on like motorcycles is a lot more fun because you can just like ride up staircases and stuff like that. You have a lot more freedom than just being in a car, so that's always nice.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about that in like 2 weeks. I've
avoided looking up any spoilers about this game.
Yeah, I've avoided pretty much everything about this game. I was just listening to a podcast and he was talking about it a little bit. So, super excited. Anything else before we end the episode?
I think that was a good jewel to our crown right there.
I think so
Cyberpunk.
too. So thank you so much again for listening. We appreciate all the support.
We love all of you, and we want all of you to continue listening because we love you.
Yes, and please comment on our stuff. We love that. We love seeing interactions.
We have had some very choice comments, very few but very choice, and we love them.
Yeah, so the more the better. You can follow us on social media. We've got Twitter and Instagram. You can follow us at Pod Out of Mana, POD Out of Mana. We're also on Twitch, Out of Mana Plays.
And we also have an email, which is podoutofmana@gmail.com.
And then where you're probably listening to us right now is on YouTube.
Of course.
Which is something that I'm really glad we did, because it's definitely upped our listening.
We are continually glad about it.
Yes. And we are still in the works of getting video, which we're super stoked about. Just kind of got to iron out a few things and we'll be good to go. But, it's all a learning process. I hope you guys are enjoying the journey so far, and we're excited to see where this goes.
Very excited.
So you've been listening to Out of Mana. We'll catch you next week.